Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title of the presentation that I would like to do for the month of November 2022 is What the Modern Freemason Can Learn from the Tragic Life of Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh is the first recorded historical story known to man. And there are a lot of truths which it can teach us in this modern time that we're in, which is full of deceit, materialism, and just a lack of connection, that lack of human connection that we have with one another in an era and age of loneliness. So Gilgamesh's life in the beginning, it shows him as the builder of cities, but also as a tyrant who was oppressing his people. Until one time there came Enkidu, who was sent by the gods to humble Gilgamesh, and then they had a fight. And Gilgamesh was humbled by Enkidu, and then they became brothers. So at that moment, Gilgamesh was able to find brotherhood and somebody who was able to correct his behavior and guide him and mentor him. And he, in return, mentor and guide Enkidu, and how they formed a close bond of brotherhood together. Gilgamesh, also being a high priest of the temple, talks about these different arts, like what we have the 7 liberal arts of Freemasonry and the fellowcraft degree we're taught to pursue, and how Gilgamesh is shown as the priest of a high temple, which is also a rank in the Masonic structure as well, and how Gilgamesh was able to basically pursue his studies and also resist the temptations of Ishtar by circumscribing his desires and living his life within due bounds. And what the modern Mason can learn from Gilgamesh is the aspect of resisting temptation and desires in this modern age where there's so much degeneracy and all this vile behavior that you see both men and women do in the modern age. And you're looking at these different apps and what the trends are. This is not how we're supposed to act. We're supposed to be decent, and we're supposed to abide by cosmic law. And the reason why we're in chaos right now is because we have fallen out of grace with that cosmic law. And that's why there is this age of chaos from 2020 through 2029. And see, with Gilgamesh, he was a king. He had all the riches of the world. He had his palace. He had his city. He had whatever any man could desire. He had it. But after the death of Enkidu, he realized that there was the tragedy of this life is that no matter what you pursue or how far you go, at the end you don't take anything with you except what good did you do for yourself and others. And when he turns his back on his city, on his friends, on his spouse, on the people that loved him, and he goes around traveling the world, trying to defy death, going to different depths, dealing with different species and realms, and encountering all the dangers that he did until he reaches Utnapishtim. And Utnapishtim was able to teach him the aspect of basically how you immortalize yourself is what good did you do for yourself and others. And this is even way before Albert Pike even said it. So Utnapishtim reiterates that teaching to Gilgamesh, that you're trying to pursue this immortality, but what the good work that you're doing for your people, building your city and building farms and helping your people in the city of work, that is what is going to immortalize you as the great king who will always be remembered. And look, even now in almost 2023, I'm talking about Gilgamesh all the way in the modern era, and how he was able to teach us strength, valor, fortitude, dignity. It's not about chasing ranks or titles or trying to outdo your brother or trying to do anything or forming cliques or doing anything that would hurt anybody. It was about bravery. It was about doing good things for your people. And after his journey to Utnapishtim, and when he gets back to the city of Uruk, he realizes, I'm trying to pursue something which is not possible, because in reality, death is inevitable for all of us, as in Freemasonry we're taught. But the modern person has forgotten that. They think that they're invincible. They think they want to outdo the other person. They want to get their ranks, titles, and be in this aspect of behavior, which kind of takes away that credibility of calling each other brothers in a brotherhood, right? So Gilgamesh reminds you that death will come for you, and one day you will answer for your crimes and for your actions and for things that you have done what you shouldn't have done, and why we must strive to live a good life. Live a good life, good behavior, good conduct, good etiquette, and leave a good impact behind, because that's what matters most. I know I reiterate this message over and over again, but the way the world is suffering in chaos right now, it's very important that we pass these teachings on, and how we must respect ourselves, respect each other, resist temptations, continue to build upon ourselves by thinking better, doing better, knowing better, build on brotherhoods, do not commit tragedy upon self or others, as Gilgamesh was as first described as a tyrant ruler, and then Enkidu was sent to his life from the gods to humble him. And that's what we must do. We must uplift each other, and we must correct each other's behavior if we feel that there's anything that's wrong, because our true well-wishers, our true brothers, are the ones who help us correct our character, right? And help us be better, know better, think better in this human life. And also face our life fearlessly, as Gilgamesh is seen here holding a lion, how he was described as somebody who had wrestled lions and giant insects and insect beings and these different realms and dimensions. He was this tragic god king hero, or this demigod that was trying to find immortality, right? So even Gilgamesh is seen as a traveling man, one who traveled from one edge of the world to the other, and where the waters were, trying to find Utnapishtim. He gave everything up, so he was divested, just like how a Mason would be. And he realized that it was not his kingly title or his material wealth. And the way that he started carrying himself, people would think that he was a beggar when they saw him. In certain places where Gilgamesh would go, people wouldn't even recognize him as a king because of the way he started carrying himself. So he's also teaching you to be humble. He's teaching you to be humble. He's teaching you to be fearless. And that needs to be reiterated, the aspect of fearlessness, because in Masonry, you're taught to trust God and not fear any danger. But the modern era that we're dealing with, I'm sorry to say, majority of the people are cowards who are just worried about their own, just protecting their own skin and not standing up for the right thing when it really comes down to it. And that's why when the emperor doesn't change their clothes, there is no real change that really happens. So we need those brave warriors to be on the forefront again in order to uplift humanity and defend humanity in times of challenge that we're in. We're in extreme challenge right now. Even if you don't belong to any organization, even if you're average person out here, everyone's dealing with a challenging era at the moment in this age of chaos that we're in from 2020 through 2029. And the lessons we learn from the Epic of Gilgamesh are what I have stated thus far from my own perspective and opinion as a free thinker under free speech, as a free man, how we must be able to strive for these different goals and know about brotherhood, fearlessness, standing up and doing the right thing, doing service to others. As Muhammad Ali had said, that being in service is the rent that you pay here on earth. And even in the Sufi teachings, you're taught service, khidmat, that one who is in service to humanity, he's even greater than the person who prays 5 times a day, so, or goes to church on Sundays. So you must be one who is constantly serving self and others. You have to. Otherwise, in the trajectory our species is going, we are going to face a 0-point event within the next 10 to 20 years. Because right now I go outside, I see people being nasty to each other. I go to the local parks, there's trash all over the place. People are still being disgusting and degrading towards each other on race, religion, gender. There's certain neighborhoods in America that I would not be allowed in just because I'm a Muslim American, right? Even though they have no idea the content of my character, does not wish any harm upon anyone. But still, that is the tragic of the life that we're dealing with. We think that we're going to get away with everything And Gilgamesh is teaching you how he realized that no matter how much he tried to escape death, he could not. He could not escape death. And what happened was that he learned his lessons and he became a better person for it. He was egotistical. He was a tyrant. A brother was sent in his life in Kaidu who humbled him and was able to point out his flaws and correct his behavior. Then he learned the aspect of fearlessness. Then he gave up his material wealth and he realized the aspect of life. He traveled around trying to find immortality. And then Utnapishtim was able to help him realize that truth, that the aspect of what we see in this world is we're thinking that we're going to take everything with us. We're kings and queens and all that stuff. But you don't take nothing with you. Look at recently the Queen of England with her titles, prestige, wealth, privileges. She's gone. She didn't take none of that with her except the good that you do for yourself and others. That is the wealth that you carry from this life and the next. When you realize that truth and you know that being a sellout or selling your soul is really a fruitless endeavor because you came with nothing, you leave with nothing. But if you preserve your soul and you know you can make an honest living instead of being a sellout or taking the easy way out, then there is no force of darkness or no enemy that can have any control over you because you know the truth and you know what's up. And even Rumi says that the greatest wealth you have is your soul. So what Gilgamesh is teaching you, a king who had ruled his people, who had everything you could imagine, he gave it all up just to find the secret of life. And at the end, he discovered, what good did you do for yourself and others? And when he comes back home from the Utnapishtim, he looks at the city walls, he looks at the farms, he looks at the city that he built for his people, and he knows that his contribution towards his people and humanity will always live on, and that's what will immortalize him. And we're still remembering him to this very day. And why we must take these lessons of being brave, being the aspect of removing fear from our hearts and minds as we walk this path, not having any fear, trusting God, trusting self, trusting each other, knowing to do the right thing and not wasting your life in pettiness, materialism, being a sellout, taking the easy way out. So these are all lessons that the modern Freemason can take from the tragic life of Gilgamesh, and why we must be able to reiterate these teachings and pass these teachings on to future generations, because right now we're living in an era of challenge where the few control the many, and the aspect of the rise of cowards where that should not be. If you look at the old charges, you look at all the revolutions of the world, this is not what the modern Freemason is lacking. It was not those Freemasons of the past who were kingmakers and the ones who had made countries, made nations, caused revolutions, brought people together. If you look at the old charges and how you were taught to resist evil wherever you saw it, but now we have complicit cowards, and that's not how we should be. So I hope you were able to take something from my opinion, my thoughts, and from how I was able to connect Gilgamesh's parallel comparisons to what the modern Mason needs to do if he wants to save self, his brotherhood, and the world around him. And I hope you benefited from this message. I wish you all, you and yours, a beautiful November 2022. And again, I represent myself only, my thoughts and opinions as a free man, as a free thinker, and I do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or opinions. Thank you, and I wish you a wonderful rest of this year.